Hi, ladies. Welcome back to the Pageant Jumpstart. That wasn't that long of a break, right? For many of you that just joined us live on the last session, we only had just an hour break before this session, but I'm so super excited to be bringing to you one of our coaches from the Win a Pageant coaching team. And this is the beautiful, lovely, and totally adorable Krystal Quagliara. She brings to us today an incredible area of expertise that is something that is actually really important to me as well, and something special to me. So Krystal is a certified personal trainer, and that was my background before I started winapageant.com. I was a certified personal trainer, and so I like talking to Krystal because like we're on the same page. We get it, you know. Krystal's going to be sharing with us today about the way to build. Let me show you her title slide again. The truth about getting a confident pageant body, because y'all know sometimes there is so much pressure in pageantry about your physical appearance. And so Krystal is here today to tell you why do we have these competitions still in the 21st century? Why do we have these competitions today? And what you can do about it. This is Krystal. Welcome, Krystal. So great to have you here. Yes, I'm thrilled to have you here. Thanks for being with us today. And thank you so much for sharing on this really important topic about pageant body. You know, it's something that can be such a huge misconception. And I absolutely love your approach. I love that you are a member of the team. I got to share with those watching your book, The Playful Journal. I love this. This was something that Krystal did about, it's been now 2 years, 3 years ago.
About 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
Great that
incredible.
time goes by.
Yes, it's incredible to see the growth that you have created as a result of this as a legacy project pretty early on, with now your podcast being, becoming a radio show and reaching to so many people around the world. So welcome, Krystal. Thank you for being here. And everybody's
Thanks,
shouting you down.
Alicia.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
so nice.
So I want to just start. If could you just give us share a bit about how you got into the health and fitness industry? Like, what led you that way?
Oh boy. Well, it's funny because I was listening to you speak earlier, and you said that you started coaching in 2004, which is about the time I started too, which is crazy to think because that's like 17, right? 17 years ago. Like, what? How is that even like? I don't even know how that much time goes by. But yeah, I wish I could say that I was born into fitness or into like a healthy family, or, that lifestyle and health was always really important. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And when I was a kid, I had a lot of struggles. I was overweight. I was unhealthy, had a lot of health problems. I missed a lot of school because, of a lot of that. And eventually, it's so funny. I saw an infomercial for Tybo, which for those of you who are maybe a little bit younger, you won't maybe know what Tybo is, or who Billy Blanks is. But for some people in our generation, we probably remember him. He's still around.
I remember this. I remember this. Yes, I do remember Billy Blanks. That's hilarious. Yes. When was that? Was that like early 2000s, probably?
Oh gosh, no, that was probably like late 90s. Late 90s when I got into it.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's back when we were still like, rolling our shirts on the side and making our eyebrows way too thin. And wow. So you saw this infomercial. Okay. So Billy Banks changed your life. How so? Tell me.
Yes. So I saw this infomercial and I went to my parents and I said, this is like what I want for my birthday this year. It was like VHS, no joke, like a 4 VHS, set of these workouts. And they thought I was nuts. They were like, okay, well, this is all you're getting then. It's like this is what I really want, and, came in the mail that day. I did my first workout. I remember like getting my homework done, getting everything. I had all this stuff after school, but I always carved out at least 20, maybe 30 minutes on, every weeknight to like just go to my basement and like just punch the air and get some aggression out. When you're 12, 13 years old, right? Like that's a really hard time to be like in school and finding yourself and all these things. So I think just that time that I took for myself, that 20, 30 minutes at the end of the day was like just such good therapy for me, you know? And I, started losing weight, started getting just empowered. I felt more confident, and it was really the discipline, I think, that I was creating for myself around this habit of working out every night that was sort of changing all these other areas of my life.
Let me ask
However,
you,
when you,
I want to just
oh,
stop and ask you, how old were you around this time?
yeah, I was probably about 13.
Okay, wow. So, and then
Yeah.
you mentioned that, like, when you said this to your parents, you were like, I want this VHS. And they were like, what? This is so weird. Is that just because the environment that you were in wasn't necessarily like health focused? So they were surprised that you would want something that was so, like, obviously health fitness focused. Is that why that was? Hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I was a dancer, but I never played
Okay.
sports. I wasn't like a sports kid growing up.
Yeah.
And I went to dance class like once a week, so it wasn't like I was ever active growing up. It
Mm.
just wasn't. I
Yeah.
was sort of not that I was a couch potato, but I was more like intellectual. I was,
Mhm.
finding creative art projects or sitting and writing songs on the piano, right? So I wasn't like going out and playing in the yard with friends, and I just wasn't an active kid. So I think they were like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
Like,
and then you mentioned, like, so you just started doing this on your own. Did you have, other than Billy, did you have anyone else in your life that was encouraging that? Like, did you have a best friend who also was in, or were you just like, you know what, I just feel good, and so then the results that you got continue to motivate you?
that's a good question. I feel that it was mostly my own discomfort with who I
Mm.
was, who I saw in the mirror. I think also like that discovery of like boys and,
Mhm.
wanting to be attractive, and, those sorts of things start to creep in, right? And not that that's always a healthy motivator, but like nonetheless, it's a motivator, right?
That's right, and
So,
it's real. It's like sometimes
yeah.
that's how, and for others it's the pageant, and it's like, huh, I'm going to be,
Hmm.
it's that like comparison thought that might be the thing that at first is the motivator, but then you realize, like you mentioned, it was actually like feeling good about yourself. And, Rox even said that she feels this way after dance class, like working out. Gloria said this too. I love dance and working out. And then afterward, you just feel so different, right? So, okay, so
Yeah.
continue. So you were doing this with Billy Blanks for a while, and you're starting to look
Yes.
good, feel good, get the junior high boys
Yeah.
on your side. Okay.
Well, it took a while on that end, but so I think I got really caught up in the attention that it brought, because when you start to make these outward changes, like the work is happening inside first, right? And so like the outside is sort of like a side effect of all the things that you're doing on the inside, right? And so, but unfortunately, if people don't really have a conversation with you, they see the outside change, right? So they go, oh, wow, you look great, or you're losing so much weight, or, all these like compliments that are very sort of surface level, superficial, right? So, unfortunately, when you're impressionable and young, you take that as, oh, great, my self-worth is equated with my weight or losing weight, or, how thin I am. And so I unfortunately went the opposite direction and thought, well, oh my God, people will love me even more if I'm thinner. And, I just got really wrapped up in that. High school, got obsessive about my weight, what I was eating. I was over exercising, just adrenal fatigue, all the things. And,
That's, I
when
can
I,
relate to this too. The especially adrenal fatigue. That's something that I had when I was living in Los Angeles. Kind of a
oh,
similar, like, not in such an obsessive way as you were, but oftentimes when we're surrounded by that, it can become what you're describing as like this unhealthy like mindset and experience. So this was now for you around
yeah.
high school age. What did that obsession look like for you? When you say like I was obsessed with how I looked and how I was eating, like, what, describe that? What was that like for you? What it looked
Yeah.
like?
It was really difficult. It was really painful, especially because high school is a time of socializing and, at lunchtime when my friends were eating French fries and cookies, like my best friend, that was her lunch. I swear to you, every single day she ate cheese fries and like a chocolate chip cookie. And I would just look at her and, I was always like, well, I could never eat that way. I can't eat that way, and I mean, I was a kid. I should have been, enjoying that sometimes, right? I mean, it was just, I would count out how many grapes I put in a bag, right? And I would have like the fat-free yogurt and like 7 grapes. And like, that was my lunch. And then I was like starving all day. And that really affected like my brain capacity. I mean, all these things, right? It's like constantly, you were just constantly thinking about food, because you're hungry all the time.
Yeah,
But then you're thinking about, well, I can't eat because I'm going to get fat. I mean, it's just hell. It really is for, anybody who has maybe experienced that or, been through something like that. I mean, it's real, and it can creep up on you really at any time in your life.
Yeah. And Krystal, thank you for sharing this story because it's interesting as I say, like, what got you into this? And you're like, well, Billy Blanks, and it sounds so great. Like, oh, I did this workout and then I lost all this weight and it was wonderful. And then it turned into this like obsession that was unhealthy. And it sounds like it started to erode other areas of your life. Like you're counting your grapes. You're jealous of the girl next to you as a kid. You're jealous because she gets to eat a cookie and you don't get to eat a like you're like, oh, I can possibly, so you're getting this feelings of jealousy and these other things. What was the pinnacle of that and what made you change from that?
Yeah. So I had gotten pneumonia because my immune system was so bad. Missed, I think, like a month and a half of school my senior year. And, the doctors were pretty much just like, we're kind of at our wits' end with you. You either need to eat. And, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of support from the doctors being like, here's the name of a great therapist or, something like that. It was just sort of like, well, if you don't go across the street and eat a Wendy's, like, we're going to put you in the hospital one of these days. Like, it was just like there was not a lot of support, from the medical community. So, I just asked my parents if they would mind putting me in some therapy, went, through some therapy. And my therapist suggested
Okay,
that
I
maybe,
love
oh,
everything
yeah.
that starts with my therapist said. I love everything. Every time someone says, "Well, my therapist said," I am like, whatever you're about to say, I need to write it in my book because I love anything that starts with my therapist. I did that. I love going to therapy. Like I've been personally for myself throughout the years. It feels to me like it's like incredible self-development. I'm like, this is like the best self-development ever. And so I love, and I myself am often like, well, I had a therapist who said, my therapist said, so, okay, what did your therapist say? We're writing it down. What did they say?
Yes. She said that, getting outside of myself, service to others was the way I was going to find some happiness. And, she asked me what I like to do. I said, I love fitness, right? I was super into that. And she suggested that, I go somewhere, maybe like the local YMCA and teach fitness class. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. So I went, I applied, they hired me. I taught a cardio kickboxing class, of course. And I fell in love with like the idea of helping others. Like it worked. It worked. And I mean, not that it was an instant change overnight, but I think it helped me develop a healthier relationship with what healthy looked like, right? And all these women who would come to my classes, I mean, they were at all different spectrums of their journey. Some of them were fitness pros. Some of them were coming into a class for the first time, didn't know if they'd survive the class. And being able to meet people where they were and understand that, healthy was more than a size 0 and empowering those women. And some of those women even like went on to teach their own classes at the Y. And like, that was like the ultimate. I was like, wow, I can't believe I inspired somebody to love this so much that they're now sharing this with someone else. Right. So that was it for me. That was when I just fell in love with the whole world of like helping people understand what healthy was to them.
And I love that. And like, because I think that most of us love this idea, like, oh yes, we want to see that healthy is the new like fit, and that people would see. However, what we know, and when you competed in pageants, there is really this um even in pageants that don't have a swimsuit or fitness competition, it feels like there's this underlying message that in pageants you have to be, like, to use your words, like a size zero, like you have to be super skinny to compete. What was your experience with pageants, and how do you, like, why do you think that this still is out there? Like, why there are some pageants, as you know, that are, do have fitness and or swimsuit competitions, but then there are some that don't at all. But that doesn't mean that they are just a plus size competition. Some of them, if it's a plus size competition, that's different, but some of them aren't even a plus size competition. They don't have fitness and swim phases, but there's this underlying message, right? So, can you help
Mhm.
us make sense of fitness in pageantry?
Yes, this is such a great question. And I get this question so much. And when I competed in pageants, this question came up more than any other question. Oh, is there a swimsuit thing? Oh, you have to walk on stage in a swimsuit? I could never do that. Oh, why do you have to wear swimsuits? Oh, that's really objectifying. Like, I mean, we all know the judgment that gets thrown at us sometimes when we decide to enter a pageant, right? Um, and, my rebuttal was always that, I was doing this for me, and I wanted to get to a level of fitness that was like next level for me. And, it was really important when I competed to not compare myself to the other women. And for me, even as a health coach, I tell people that your discipline and your habits that you form around your health and fitness and wellness, they transcend everything else. When you have a morning routine, or you have that workout during the day, it's time that you take for yourself. It's time that you take to honor your body, right? The temple that God gave you. It's time that you're thinking of what you're putting in your mouth, right? It's like food is nourishment, food is medicinal, right? And I think it just having those habits and that structure are what make you able to then have that discipline with your legacy project, with your community involvement, scheduling those appearances, having those other components that you need in pageantry, all boil down to like that self-discipline, right? And that, like, okay, I'm taking care of me first, putting the oxygen mask on myself first, right, before I take care of all these other things. And so that's, to me, why it seems important to have that fitness component. I think when can look at a woman on stage and say, wow, she's got a banging bod, right? I mean, it's telling of how dedicated she is to her own growth, to her own health, and the level of commitment that she's going to give the title and every job you throw at her, right? So that was always how I looked at it, when I competed.
Yeah. I like that. And I like how you were like bang and bod, because bang and bod doesn't always mean which one of these is the skinniest girl. And I think that sometimes when we're competing with that lens of competition, or, I'm not good enough or whatever, we're so focused on ourselves, and then we compare ourselves to others, and instead of comparing what is a bang and bod on me. So if you are competing in a system, let's say I'm competing in a system, and I feel like, Miss USA or something, where all these girls it just feels like every single girl on that stage is like a size zero. What do I need to do? Because I know there's women watching now that are thinking this, like, right? They're thinking like, yeah, but my pageant, I really do have to be skinny. And what we're trying to say is, no, please don't do that. You'll wreck
Mm-hmm.
yourself if you're
Mm-hmm.
chasing something that is wrong. What we're trying to do instead is talk about discipline, morning routine. So what can someone do to prepare like that?
Yes. I think it comes down to like that level of confidence. And I know me and you had talked about this earlier that, when you're obsessed about it and when you're like, oh, I got to be the thinnest person here and I got to have, all this, it takes away from all the other things that you're trying to accomplish while you're at that pageant, right? Because now you're not thinking about how am I going to communicate my legacy project, right? How am I going to communicate what I'm going to do with this title? All you're thinking about is look at her abs. Oh my God, my butt's bigger than hers. Like it takes you totally out of focus, So I think just having the discipline and giving yourself enough time too. I mean, right? If you are competing in the USA system and you feel like you need to tone and tighten or something, like don't give yourself 6 months, right? Like give yourself a year at least, right? To get there, to have the discipline so that you don't feel like this is such a, oh my God, I got to do this in 3 months or whatever, like to have, give yourself time to get the habits in place, work on the habits, develop that, mindset and let your body adjust to like what's happening, right?
This you're preaching to me right now because being postpartum, I just had my daughter like almost 4 months ago, and I look at my face and I'm like, I'm just not there yet. Like I'm just not. I know what my body used to be capable of, and now life looks different, and so there's a different level of grace that I'm learning to extend to myself in order to feel confident and not just feel that comparison like you're saying. Like I don't want to be obsessed over it. I have to live my life still, and so not feeling like, I have to like lose this baby weight in like 2 months, but rather like, no, give yourself a realistic. So what would be a realistic amount of time for, I don't know. And I know every person probably loses weight differently, but what should somebody expect in terms of their preparation for weight loss specifically?
Yeah, I mean, depending on it, and it ranges by person, right? I mean, hormones and genetics, all those things play a role, right? And somebody who has maybe 10 pounds to get to their like ideal body or what their goal is going to have maybe a harder time than somebody who has like 60 pounds to lose, right?
Yeah,
And they're
like
like,
tell us
wow,
why
this,
that is. Like talk, why is this, right?
yeah. Well, they often call those like last 5 to 10 pounds like vanity pounds, right? Because like your body is healthy when you're carrying an extra 5, 10, maybe even 15 for some people, right? When you're carrying sort of that extra, it's not even extra. Like I don't even know how to describe it, right? But we know, like when you go like, oh, if I could just tighten up that or whatever, right? Like, but we know we're healthy. We know we're like, not overweight, right? Not in that overweight category. So those vanity pounds is where it gets really tough. And I feel like that's why it's really frustrating for women who compete in pageants, because I think, a lot of women who are maybe willing to get up on a stage and do this kind of thing are probably already health conscious to some degree, right? And they're just ready to like up level or, get a little fitter or finally like, man, I've always wanted abs, right? Like maybe I just need a pageant to get me there, and have that goal. And so that's why it's just sometimes can feel like it takes so much work, and when a person carries maybe 50 or 60 extra pounds, and sort of in the overweight category, the body wants to be in stasis, and the body wants to be in this healthy state. So as soon as you trigger that thing in your body that starts the weight loss, fat burning machine part of you, like your body goes, cool, let's shed, right? Let's shed and shred. So, and then, and then sometimes your body's like, wait, hold on, wait a minute. Are we starving? What's going on here? Is this too much? Right? There's sort of this whole thing that happens. And I mean, we're getting into the weeds here, but yeah,
That's
alas, it's different for every person.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because it's what you're describing is so interesting that I love this term. I've not never heard this before. What you're describing, those like last 10 pounds or last whatever pounds, is vanity. And I relate to that myself because I've been in the like super skinny, unbelievably lean category when I was just working out all the time and dancing, like teaching dance classes and working out and all the stuff. And um, then not, and been in a season where I've been more focused on work or more focused on, other things and that I'm building different areas of life, and how
Right.
those vanity pounds creep on. The health is still there, but
Mhm.
perhaps the confidence is gone. And so there's like that way to trigger the confidence, regardless of whether or not, rather than tying yourself to the weight, but rather tie
Mm.
yourself to the act, the discipline of healthy habits and things like that, right?
Yes, absolutely. So when I coach, I often go through this exercise where I have my clients write out a list of things. They make two columns. They go, okay, everything that's in my control and everything that is outside my control, right? And so often they put in the column they think that's in their control is how much weight they're losing, or that they're going to be a size 5 soon or something, right? Like, we can't control any of that. Our body's going to do what our body does, right? But what we can control is having a plan, planning our meals, having a workout routine, getting up that extra half hour to get it in, right? Those things that we do on a daily basis that we make those decisions around, right? We have no control over how fast our muscle grows or repairs, or when the abs start popping out. Like, none of that's within our control, right? So being able to say, okay, first recognize, like, what is it I actually have control over? And then if you're doing those things, that's where your confidence comes from, because you're going, okay, I'm hitting all the marks, right? And you can celebrate that, wow, I worked out 5 days this week. Go me, right? Like, not, oh, I didn't lose those 3 pounds this week, right? Then it becomes this like when you talked about, right, like winning Alicia mindset versus loser Alicia mindset, right? Like, we want to be in the winning mindset, right? We want to look at all these things that we had control over, and we did, and we won, right? So that maybe the things that aren't moving as fast don't bog us down.
That's good. I like that. And I love this idea of having your clients do that. Like, what can you control? What's not in your control? And then kind of moving that one over to the other
Yeah.
category. Like, that's not one you can actually control, but you can control the things around it. So what are some things that you would recommend that pageant women, what can we control? What are, like, give us a list of things that we ought to be thinking through of, like, this is stuff I need to be aware of that I can control.
Yeah. The first one I always say is find something you enjoy, because the pageant prep and all of that, like, that's, to me, that's where all the magic was. I mean, the pageant is over so quick. It's a couple hours. You're on stage, you're off stage, or put butt glue on, you're taking your dress on and off. I mean, it's like, it just goes by so fast, right? That you really have to enjoy the journey there, because if you're waiting until you're at the pageant to, like, enjoy yourself, like, it's not going to happen, So I say that, find an exercise routine, a class, joining people at the gym, like, find what you like. Is it playing a sport? Is it taking a dance class? Is it, Billy Blank's Taebo? I mean, whatever it is, right? So that you can actually enjoy the process. I think that's really number one, very important. And I think the second thing is that, don't be obsessive about it, right? And to have, don't let the fitness component of your competition be your only focus, because you're going to miss the mark. And, I mean, we've all seen it. I'm sure we've all been in a pageant or seen a pageant where the girl with what we thought was the best body didn't win, because that's not what they're judging ultimately, right? So, the girl who showed up and did the work, had a legacy project, communicated clearly, had a coach, right? All those things. She's the girl who ends up winning. So it's really, really not probably as important as you think. So,
You
have it
just
there,
you
but
just set
it's
some
the
people free.
vehicle.
Krystal,
Oh,
you
good.
just spoke freedom over the room. Like, I am not kidding. You are so spot on. And I love what you just said. You were like, don't focus on fitness because you will miss the mark. And it's so true that when we put our sole focus on, I just have to look this way, I just have to look this way, I just have to, we will obsess over it because it is just out of whack. And that's not how it's meant to be. It's really about the total package. And I love what you said earlier too about the type of person who creates in their life the discipline necessary in the physical realm, it will translate to all those other realms of being, and that those disciplined habits will then help. Not only will it, of course, help you with your fitness journey and, whatever your goals might be with that, and also it's going to give you the mindset and good sleep at night and all of that stuff to continue functioning. But what you said was, you're going to build for yourself this level of confidence because of those disciplined habits. And I think that can't be said enough, that it's really more about building that discipline habit. In your experience, how long does it really take to build habits like that? Like an actual habit? I imagine longer than, like, I don't know, a week, probably more than like 30 days, more than, I don't know. For me, it takes more like at least 3 months. What has it been with your experience to like build a habit?
Yeah. So, I mean, generally, it takes about 21 days to make something a habit. But here's where I think people get a little trippy because a lot of people say, okay, I'm going to change all these things, right? Like, I'm going to be a vegan tomorrow, and then I'm going to, go to the gym every day, and I'm going to drink, 24 ounces of water every 3 hours. And it's like, hold on. Okay. How about if you want to be a vegan, you like give up beef for like a week, and then maybe next week, like it's just, we, I mean, I don't know if this is just a female thing, but it's always like all or nothing, like we just want to see that change so badly that we're like, I'm doing it, like I'm changing all these things. And that's what is so hard. Like, give yourself 3 weeks for one habit, right? Like, don't even change anything else. Just get up and push play on that workout for 5 days a week for 3 weeks. Okay. So now that's a habit. Then we're going to stack another habit on top of that, right? So then it's nutrition, or it's drinking the water, whatever, getting better sleep, having those things. But if you try and jam all of that in to like a 21-day period, you're like, I don't know, it's like, never going to happen. Never going to happen. So that's why I say, give yourself that time, give yourself that grace period to say, okay, like, yeah, in 6 months, yeah, that's a good amount of time. We can build some crazy good habits in 6 months, right? And, start to see great results even after 3 of those months, right? So it's, yeah, giving yourself time, adding in one thing at a time, changing one thing at a time.
That's great. Yeah, that's good feedback. So, okay, Gloria is asking this question. I think it's worth talking about right now, right away. And then we can take more questions too in a moment. She says, how do you balance having a goal, like a serious goal that you really are like after? And I know that's what she's saying. I added in all those extra words, but I know Gloria and I know what she's talking about. And keeping it fun, because there's
Mm.
like this pressure sometimes around goals that they become like, if it's like hard, and it like needs to be hard in order to like make it worthy. But how do you allow yourself to say, this is a goal, it's really important to me that I achieve this goal, and like you said earlier, I want to enjoy this process of achieving this goal? What might be some
Mhm.
things that would help to support that process for her or anyone like that?
Yeah, that's so great, Clara. Thank you for that question. So this kind of goes back to like my whole philosophy of playfulness, right? And sort of what the book was about. That, if you can inject that playfulness into the process, then it's so much more enjoyable. And I'm not just talking about like, I don't know, goofing around, or that every day has to be this playful, whatever kid-like experience, but it is, celebrating and finding ways that are healthy ways to celebrate. So not like saying, well, if I lose 10 pounds, then I can eat some ice cream, right? Because that's not really like, you never want to like give yourself an incentive with like a food reward or something like that, right? So it's changing your reward system in a way that says, if I get to, halfway to my goal, right, I'm going to go shop at like my favorite store. And, they have some things that are maybe a little bit outside my price range that I wouldn't shop there all the time. But like, I'm going to go find one thing I really like, right? Go to their website and look at some of the things and say, like that's really cool, right? So give yourself little incentives along the way so that you don't feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to this goal. It's never going to happen. It's so hard. I can't eat any more broccoli, dear God, right? So it's like knowing that you have these like little pit stops along the way, right? Like sometimes when you take a drive cross country, like I love this analogy, like it's not just about getting in the car and like hitting the gas and being like, okay, here we go, New York to LA. Like you're going to stop along the way and you're going to meet some fun people and you might see like the, world's biggest potato over here and like I don't know, some right. I mean, it's like that's the fun of it when you get on a road trip, right? And sometimes you got to stop and gas up. Sometimes you got to redirect your route because the road is closed, right? It's all these things that come up along the way. But I would say like don't shut your eyes to the celebrations that you can have on that journey and find people to celebrate with you. I think that's really important too. Like you were saying, right? The community and the social network and, people that know what your goals are and are going to cheer you on and say like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like 5 pounds or wow, like look at your biceps or, oh my God, you worked out 3 days this week. That's awesome. Like high five, right? So, it's having all that encouragement along the way that makes it playful.
That's great. I love this. Yes, and I love the idea of celebrating. My husband has a saying that he picked up from his work. They at that company they say celebrate all wins. And it's like all wins. All of the wins, all of them along the way. We're celebrating everything. And I love that concept. It's not just we're only celebrating the big win at the end. We're celebrating all of the success. And that's something that we're going to even do in the academy, that as people set those goals and achieve them, those are going to be the things that we celebrate instead of just the big pageant win at the end. Because I love what you said about, or even earlier you talked about how, if your only experience of pageantry is the pageant itself, you're missing out on a lot of fun
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
really all these steps along the way. And that's kind of like when we set our goals so far out, and the only goal is I'm just going to win the pageant, you can't enjoy those celebrations. You have to kind of set those like mini goals along the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This was so funny. I was speaking with Trinity earlier, one of our other coaches, and I told her this story. We just had such a good laugh. That the first pageant I did, I got off stage, the evening gown, I did all that. Like I didn't fall on my face. I was really, really proud. And, we all got off stage. I'm going to the dressing room and I like went into the dressing room and I'm like starting to like kind of unzip my dress and this other contestant woman comes in and she's like, what are you doing? I was like, oh. And she was like, we have to go back on stage. Like, they're announcing a winner, And I was like, I was so, like, I did all the things I came to do, right? I was like, I'm done, that was the finale. Go take the dress off. I don't even know. So I knew in that moment that when I did go back on stage and they called top five and, gave awards and all that, like I was just in such a content place because I was like, I already accomplished everything I came here to accomplish. Like whatever happens at this point is just like extra, like, so just enjoy the moment.
That's beautiful. That's cool. Yeah, it is a fun thing to just be like, I did it. And you're like, did what? I competed. What?
Right?
And it's like, yeah, but look at all these things that competing to me meant, versus just so many women they only compete because they're like, I call them crown chasers. Like they just are chasing after just the crown and they don't want the experience. They don't want the network. They don't want and that's a different way of doing it. And for some people that might be their way. But for most of us, we desire the entire experience. So that's
Yes.
cool that you're saying that. I've got a great question from Erin, and this is something that I can relate to in lots of ways, probably not nearly as much as she can. Erin says, what's your advice when trying to work out when you have small children and trying to schedule fitness while also taking care of a family, especially moms who can't work out every day? Is there something that you would
Mhm.
suggest? Obviously, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all do, 7 hours of working out every single day? Like we're going to be Wonder Woman or something, in the next upcoming film, but we're not. So what can we do? What do you recommend for her or someone like her and I?
Yeah, that's great. And I don't have kids yet, so I feel that this is somewhat difficult for me to really speak on. But I can speak from at least the things that my clients over the years have found helpful. Is figure out what's easiest for you, right? Is it having a door that you close on a room that's not a very big space, but it's something, right? And I think, telling your spouse or, if you have kids that are a little bit older, saying, like mom needs this time, I 20 minutes, that's really all you need, if you're doing like a hit workout or something, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be 2 hours. It doesn't, have to be that long. Sometimes you just need to carve out that time. And as uncomfortable as it is, at times to, say no in the moment to doing something or asking for help, right? That's a big one. Like, asking for help from your spouse or from, an older child or something in your family and say like, hey, like, I just need 20 minutes, and just explaining that like you're going to be like a better version of yourself all day long if you just get that time, because you will, I can guarantee that, and, if working out at home isn't your thing, find a gym and find one that is close. There might be some great boutique gym, but it's a 30-minute drive in traffic. Like that's not for you. Don't do that. Like maybe when your kids are older in school or something, maybe eventually, but like find whatever is most convenient and just make that work.
That's really great advice to focus on the things that you can control. Like I think it goes back to that exercise that you mentioned. Like there are going to be some stuff you just can't control, but then there's a whole slew of things you can control. And I like what you're saying, even a dedicated space. That's something that works really well for me is to like be like, that's the space where that thing happens. That's the space where I work out. That's the space where I stretch. That's the space where that's the, wherever that, like for me, it's like, that's the space that I work. That's the space that I stretch. That's the space that I breastfeed in. That's the space, it's like,
Yeah.
I have these like
Yeah.
corners, nooks of the house where I say, that's where this action takes place. And then, the rest of the family. Now, of course, my daughter's super young. She's not even aware of these spaces of the house yet, but my husband knows. And so he knows, okay, if she's in this space of the house, this is what's happening. She's working out, she's stretching,
Mm-hmm.
she's
Mm-hmm.
doing whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and so I like that
Mm-hmm.
there can be those spaces. I remember growing up, my mom did Jane Fonda workouts. So I was born in 84. So Jane Fonda was all the rave in the 80s. And my mom would do Jane Fonda workouts, and she would do it. She would plug in her VHS, just like you with your Billy Blanks. Jane Fonda, she'd plug it in, and we were not allowed in the living room while mom was working out. And we could see her through like the door, but we weren't allowed to go in while she was working out. And it was short. It was like 30 minutes, whatever her workouts were. I don't know. Maybe it was an hour. I don't know. It felt short anyway. And we had something that we could be doing while she was doing that. So she would set us
Mm-hmm.
up first and then say, okay, now I'm going to go
Mm.
do this. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And what
Erin's
a
saying
great
here,
example that
go ahead.
was from your mom, like
Yes, 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 100%. It really, really was. And it was never something that from a child perspective, it was never something that I felt like, oh, well, she's ignoring me or whatever, because
Mhm.
she would emerge from that room and she was happy and she felt good, like the job was done, and then she could move on with her life. It wasn't like there was any contention or anything.
And also note that like I mean, really it's 80-20. It's 80% in the kitchen and like 20% how you're moving your body. So if you're getting those 2 days a week already, like maybe you're like doing some squats in the kitchen while your water boils. Or like, sometimes I'll just like back up from the countertop and like do some push-ups like on the kitchen counter. Or some calf raises or something, right? So sometimes we could just put those little
I have to just
microbursts
point
in.
out that you were looking like this probably into your kitchen. You're like, what else do I do over there? Like, you're like, oh yeah, the sink, I do that. Oh yeah, that I do. Oh wait, what? Oh yeah, by that chair, I do. You know, it's like, again, just
Totally.
like the places in the house, right? If you like assign, you know, hey, while I'm in, like for me, when I'm rocking my daughter to sleep, I'm doing squats because she loves movement, you know, and so I'm like squat, squat. I'm like doing squats with her. I'm like, oh, this is like, and she's heavy. She's like 16 pounds right now. So I'm like, dang, this is a heavy girl. And everybody's saying that MDO is Mother's Day out. Thank you, moms in the room.
Oh.
And all the
Yeah,
moms
Lisha,
want
you
you to
need
know
to know that one.
yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah, but so that's great to know that, like, hey, yes, most of it is nutrition because our bodies function off that and can, and that can, that's like the ripple effect right into hormones and into all these other areas of how the systems are working, digestion working properly, and liver functioning to release toxins and things like that. So having that in just nutrition alone, a lot of people can make some shifts with that and just start losing weight, becoming healthier just as a result of changing nutrition. But then you
Right.
add in, you know, those little things that you can do around your house, and it makes such a big difference. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great. Good.
absolutely.
Krystal, we've got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to give us a little time to take a few more questions. So, ladies, if you're watching, please leave your questions for us. But is there anything else that you feel, Krystal, that is like really important that you're like, hang on, I got to share this too? Like, what else do you think would be vital for people to know, if anything?
Well, I had some notes written down, so
Yeah.
it was, but yeah, I think we've touched on a lot of it. It was, you know, this is something too
Yeah.
that I think I wanted to mention, but it kind of goes back to that whole accountability piece. And you know, some people are social butterflies and really do well when they're like in a class, or you know, some people are like, "Oh, I'm not going to go to the gym unless I have a friend come with me," right? So some people are that, like they need a buddy, right? Like the Girl Scouts, like buddy system, right? So, and then other people like me, I am one of those people. I like going to classes, but I really just, I don't want to like talk to anybody when I'm working out. I don't look nice. I don't even care what I'm wearing. I mean, you should see some of the leggings I wear. It's atrocious. But I just go to my basement, I get it done, right? So like know yourself, you know yourself, and don't try to fit in a box that somebody else suggested to you or whatever. So, you know, maybe, you know, one of those things, those helpful things I think of working with a coach is to like go through that, right? And somebody actually asks you like, well, what's your jam? You know, like, is it being in nature? Were you a softball player in high school or college and like you really missed that? Then look up that, you know, like don't think it needs to be this certain thing, you know? And I think like for me, when I was competing, one of the things I had to sort of shut down was, you know, of course we want to be friends. And in the world of social media, it's likely that we're following other contestants on social media, right? And they're posting selfies of them working out, or they're at Orange Theory, and we may be like, oh, I don't know, my budget doesn't allow me to go to Orange Theory, you know, like, and then you feel bad, right? And then you're like, great, I'm at Average Joe's gym, right? And
Average Joe's gym. I know. But what you're saying is so real that it's like everyone else is posting their like, oh, my personal trainer I've been working with for 7 days a week for 20 years. Like, you know, it's like this comparison beast. Yes. So what do you
yes,
do when
yeah,
this strikes?
you just I celebrate those people. I say, wow, good for her, awesome, she goes to Orange Theory, that's amazing, like, right? I think that act of like blessing others and saying like, that's awesome, girl, that's your jam, I bless you on your journey, and I know that I'm on the right path, right? Like, know thyself, right? Like, know what's in your budget, what's in your comfort zone, and like just know that there are many, many, many paths to success, right? So you don't have to always take the one that looks the flashiest and shiniest out there.
That's great. And I think that sometimes, I know for me, it feels good to like almost be given that permission from somebody else, and that sort of like amen or blessing, like you're saying, that what I'm choosing is good, even though
Mm,
it's not what someone else is choosing, you know, that by saying like, Okay, so here and even like I like what you're saying about, well, what is your style? And maybe people don't know their style. You know, like I don't know. Do I like working out with friends? Would I rather do an outdoor workout with so maybe like trying out those different things and then paying attention to how do I really feel when I work out with a buddy, or how do I really feel when I remember when I first met Randy, we would work out together all the time, but because I was a personal trainer, he was not. I was I was used to working out with trainers. And so we would spot each other and we would like train each other as we went through a workout. And so I was working with him and I was like spotting him and like training him. And then like he wasn't training me. And so at the end of the workout, I would be like, man, he got a great workout. And I like need to go back. Like I was like, this is not working out.
Yes.
So we went on for like 3 months. And finally I was like, okay, this is not working out anymore. Like I need to be alone on my workouts. I can't keep like going with you because I feel like I want to just train you. Like you're screwing it up. You need help with this. Like tricep push down. So I just need to step in. And it was like
Hmm.
not working. So anyway, we're like, okay, new plan. And it changes, like what might have been working for you in the past might change and something you got to try something new. And so yeah, I think that it's all about just testing things out. Do you love going to the workouts at Crunch in the group fitness, or would you rather do something at home? Do the apps work for you? Do you like to, so
Yeah.
testing everything out and then settling into it and then having somebody else kind of like be like, yes, that is working for you. Like, good job and keep up the great work so that you don't feel like, did I make the right choice? Am I on the right track? Like sometimes when we're, as like in a competition experience and we start
Mhm.
comparing ourselves, because in a competition, you just do. It's like hard not to. And so
Yeah.
then in that comparison, you're like, wait a second, am I missing the mark? Should I be going to, Gold's Gym, or should I be going to whatever, Orange Theory, or.
Right.
And
We
so
go,
just
wow,
knowing
look at
that.
that girl's booty. I need to be doing bar, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh
it's
my
just
God. Yeah,
so, I'm
exactly. So
like,
true. Yeah. And it's like just knowing that having someone else in your corner to be like, you're on the right track, keep going. Then you feel like, okay, all right, I am on the right track. I am going to keep going. And then eventually we know that results kick in, and results are what lead to ultimate motivation. And so then you can kind of catch on to that. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
This is good.
definitely.
Yeah. Any other? I've got one other question I see in here. Girls, if you've got questions, let us know. Deanna is asking Krystal, do you take any supplements to add to your diet?
Oh.
How do you feel about supplements
Yeah,
personally?
yeah, I've always loved supplements, and that's one thing I have to like thank my mom about. We were always like, yeah, we might not have always had the healthiest diet, like exercise might have not always been top priority, but I always remember like going to the health food store with my mom, right? And like I was always so fascinated, and I loved it when like the woman at the health food store knew all about, all the different things. And so I will say that there's a lot out there, and there's ones that I trust more than others. And again, it's all in what you are looking to accomplish, right? So, I mean, of course, there's snake oils out there, and there are really great, amazing supplements out there, right? So, as a coach, I feel like it is my job to sort of weed through that for people and say, okay, well, what's your goal? What are you looking to do? Not all protein is made equal, right? Like some proteins are meant to put bulk on an 18-year-old boy who wants to lift and go to the gym and be beefy, right? Like we don't want that protein supplement, right? So it's kind of like you got to educate yourself about them before you take them. And then, that's a commitment in itself too, right? That, knowing that, okay, just because you take this magic pill or something every day, that all your problems are going to be fixed. I mean, I feel like supplements are very much that, right? They're supplemental to the other habits, and they can accelerate your results and they can accelerate you to your goal. But ultimately, it's, they're one of those habits that I stack on top of the other habits that you're already forming.
That's great. Yes, I love that. That it's not the thing, it's the supplement to the thing. That's good. Can you
Mm-hmm.
speak specifically to, Deanna's asking about adrenal fatigue. Can you speak specifically to, like maybe you could share a little bit about what that is briefly, and then was there anything that you did in terms of supplements or any habits or things like that you did to help avoid that and or to heal from it?
Yeah. So this will be a hard one to wrap up in a couple minutes, but and maybe this is something I would love to do, like a longer training on this in the academy, in our
Definitely.
skill
I think
building
it's
for those that
important
want to do that.
because
Um,
drivers, we have so many women that are just drivers. They're just like goal
yes.
setting and going for it. And that's where oftentimes that adrenal fatigue will come in with cortisol and stuff like that. So I think that's great. We should
Yes.
do that in the
Yes.
skill
So
building.
basically, in a very summed up version, like your adrenal system, right, is like what gives you energy, and your adrenaline, right? Adrenaline's sort of that rush that you get when you step on stage and in your pageant, right? Like adrenaline is a positive thing. It's what tells us to run from the lion, and it is what gives us the energy to run from the lion in the wild, right? Like we needed as humans, we need that hormone. But unfortunately, we can sort of tax that system if we're constantly in like fight or flight, right? So, which can be caused by stress, what we talk about, like that drive to do more, accomplish more, right? Like it doesn't even have to be physical stress. It could be mental stress that causes that tax on your adrenal system. So there are certainly, things that you can do supplemental with your diet. There's practitioners out there, holistic doctors and things that can test your adrenal system. So they will actually look at the performance of your cortisol and your adrenaline throughout the day, and they'll see if you have proper function. And then, there are like regimens that you can do. If you feel like you're in it right now, rest. Rest is amazing, right? And rest your mind as well as your body, which is important because those are separate things.
So true. So true. I know. Yeah. For me, it took me, I think it took over a year to heal from adrenal fatigue. And it came back to exactly what you're describing, rest. And I changed my workouts. I changed I did not, it even came down to, I did not go to restaurants that had loud music. Like
Mm.
the sound of the music would start my adrenaline, and so even that I couldn't do any like spin classes or like loud music. Like everything was just yoga. I was like, like
Yeah,
just everything
yoga,
took it way down. Yeah,
Pilates.
yeah,
Yeah,
Pilates, good.
a lot
Yeah.
of just isometric things. So,
Mm,
holding a position, right, holding a plank, or, getting some resistance bands and just holding an isometric contraction is a lot less
hmm.
stressful because it's not, you're getting your heart rate up, but it's not as stressful on your body, right? So, there's lots of things that you can do to still, be fit and tone and feel that, right? Because sometimes we get stressed out if we're not working out. I know
True.
I'm one of those people, right? Like I'm like, too much rest is no good for me either, because then I'd be like, oh, I'm stressed out. So I
So
understand
true.
that, sometimes when we say rest, you're like, yeah, I tried that. It stresses me out. Like,
Exactly. That's so true. Too much of anything can be a negative thing,
right,
including too much rest. Yes, God built the whole world in 6 days and then rested on the 7th. So we need
right.
rest, but not more than we need work. So yes, I hear you. Oh, that's great. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, we're at the top of the hour. So we are going to say goodbye. Krystal, I just want to honor you and say thank you, thank you, thank you for taking the time to come on here today to share your area of expertise. I know inside of the academy, you've already got so many awesome things. Like I really want to do a whole skill building training on just the things we can control and the things we can't control. Like I'm like, that would be so great to do. I love digging into adrenal fatigue because I think that's something that many of us have
Yes.
had, do have, and don't want to have. So I think that is really brilliant. We got a lot of other great things that I know that we can cover in there. And people are going to be so blessed to be able to work with you because of the extensive experience that you have, because of the light that you bring to share all of this, and how you really do approach all this stuff from such a playful attitude. So Krystal, we appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
All
Okay.
right. Yes. Thanks, Alicia. Bye
Bye,
bye.
hon. I hope that you absolutely loved that episode. You know, it's always my intention to bring you high quality, valuable pieces of information, whether it's interviews or step-by-step trainings. And one of the greatest places that we do this is inside of the Win a Pageant Academy. A team of coaches and myself work every single day to help women just like you achieve their dreams. Now, especially in the pageant industry, but I know that God is calling you to so much more, and that your pageant is just a stop along the way to an even greater success. If you see that vision for yourself and you think that we might be able to help you, I would love for you to visit winapageant.com/academy to see all that we can help you with through the Win a Pageant Academy. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me to see if this is a fit for you. We would love to work with you if you are a go-getter with a big vision to achieve something massive in this world. And if you just need somebody to hold your hand and guide you every step of the way, we would love to be that coach for you. So if that's something you're interested in, check it out. We would love to welcome you inside the Academy. winapageant.com/academy.